Long time no see, Ravens Talk fans. In this episode, we'll be talking all about training camp, new faces, and the Super Bowl or bust message. If the Ravens fail to reach the Super Bowl, who was to blame? We'll touch on all this and more next on Ravens Talk.
Look, this the Raven Talk, this the Raven Talk, this the Raven Talk podcast. Follow us on Instagram, on YouTube for the broadcast. Say this the Raven Talk, this the Raven Talk, this the Raven Talk podcast. Not old news, this is new news to the whole world where they ball at. Come and listen to the former writer for the Baltimore Sports Illustrated.
The wait is almost over, Ravens fans. Football is almost here. We are smack dab in the middle of training camp. We have a lot to get to here on the first episode of Season 3 of Ravens Talk. Welcome to Ravens Talk. I'm your host, Njoku. In this episode, we'll be touching on the new faces that have arrived in Baltimore and the impact that they may have on this roster as the season gets underway. We'll touch on training camp, some battles to talk about, injuries to take note of. All of this we'll be getting into later on in the show. And also, we'll be touching on the fact that the Ravens could be in a potential Super Bowl or bust territory. We've heard a lot of people say that. Is that actually the case? And if it is, who's to blame if the Ravens do not make it to the promised land? But first, let's touch on the new faces. It's been a while since we got on the Ravens Talk show. Won't spend too much time on this because obviously we know what the Ravens have done in the offseason to improve upon this already loaded roster. The Ravens obviously re-signed Ronnie Stanley. Huge move to protect Lamar Jackson's blind side, but they also bring DeAndre Hopkins, a guy who is right now solidified as the third wide receiver and what can many consider a loaded receiver one maybe? I mean, I think you can make a case that this is probably a loaded receiver room with Zay Flowers and Rashod Bateman, along with DeAndre Hopkins and some other guys who I'm sure we'll talk about later on in the show. But the big signing, the big free agent signing is none other than Jaire Alexander, who was released by the Green Bay Packers earlier this offseason, I should say. And the Ravens did their due diligence and scooped him up right away. Obviously, many Ravens fans know that Jaire Alexander has been a former teammate of Lamar Jackson back in Louisville. These two guys both got drafted in the same year in 2018, both in the first round. And now these two are playing together, and we've heard nothing but good things coming out of training camp and also from, coaching staffs and media and what have you regarding Jaire Alexander and what he means to this team. So we're going to focus in on Jaire Alexander because I believe he may be the catalyst for this defense. And we've seen it all through training camp. We're going to touch on training camp a little bit later, but it's important to note what swagger Jaire Alexander has brought to this team. We know Marlon Humphrey loves to talk, but he's not much of a talker on the field, at least not trash talking. He doesn't, he leads by example. He's the type of guy who, he'll get hype up if a play is made or not, but you can see a different level to the secondary group with Jaire Alexander on the field. He's one of those superb boundary corners when healthy. Health is a big concern with Jaire Alexander, obviously, but when healthy, there aren't many better boundary corners in the National Football League than Jaire and what he does for this defense, the versatility. And I love that word versatility when it comes to this defense. The versatility that he brings to this unit cannot be overstated. It's just one of those things that other offenses across the league are going to have to deal with, along with the fact that they got Kyle Hamilton in the back end with Malachi Starks, Darius Washington dealing with an injury of his own, an Achilles tear. Hopefully he makes his return somewhere within the season. But even if he doesn't, the Ravens have two stud safeties. Even though Malachi Starks is the rookie, the way that he can come in and really calm the chaos, as I like to say, with this defense in the backfield is something that we haven't really had in this team in quite some time. But Jaire Alexander, I think, should be the focal point of this defense. He is the newest member. He surges with talent and what he brings to this defense, especially the cornerback room, which is loaded. Absolutely loaded. Again, cannot be understated. So what are we dealing with right now with the Ravens cornerback room? We have Jaire Alexander. We have Nate Wiggins, who looks like a superstar in his own right. I mean, let's not forget, he was one of the better corners in all of football, not just rookies. Nate Wiggins was one of the better corners in all of football. Pairing him up with Jaire Alexander, you got Marlon Humphrey in the slot. You got TJ Tampa, who's performed admirably. I'm sure we'll touch on TJ Tampa when we talk about training camp a little later because he has been vital. Chidobe Awuzie, somebody they brought in, who we assumed would be replacing Brandon Stevens, who left via free agency. This cornerback room is loaded with talent. They have the depth, they have the talent, and the things that happened in the regular season in the beginning of 2024, we don't expect it to happen in 2025 because anybody could have success running defensive play calls with this defense. Anybody should have no issue coaching up as a position group, this quarterback room with the talent that's across this unit is just very impressive. Once again, Eric DeCosta shines again, gets the talent of Jair Alexander. Of course, the name of the game for Jair is staying healthy. I believe that criticism is warranted, considering that he's almost missed half of his games the last 2 seasons. So if anyone's over here trying to diminish the possibility that he gets hurt, diminish the criticism that's going his way in regards to staying healthy, I mean, just chill out. It's true. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. You hope he stays healthy. Obviously, you think that injuries happen in the game of football, but Jair wants a big contract. He needs to stay healthy this year. He needs to perform well this year. I expect him to perform well this year, no doubt about it, especially with the talent he has surrounding him. Staying healthy is the name of the game for Jair Alexander. But we talked about other faces. New faces is the name of the game for this segment. We talked about Malachi Starks, his presence. You heard me throughout the draft process, how high I was on Malachi Starks. I knew the Ravens were going to gear up to get him. I didn't think there would be other teams foolish enough to let them fall to Baltimore, but that's the name of the game, it seems, year after year with this Ravens organization. We've heard from media sources, we've heard from players about how quickly Malachi Starks has got, accustomed to the playbook, how he's been calm under pressure. Doesn't seem like he's a rookie out there. Those are things you like to hear from, the coaching staff and players. Obviously, it's all media talk, but you really want to hear good things about your starting safety, your starting rookie safety in regards to this team being, the best it could be. Mike Green. We know the past Mike Green has. We won't delve too much into it. Obviously, there's a reason why he fell in the second round. The Ravens are hopeful that whatever happened in the past stays in the past with Mike Green. We've seen the issues that the Ravens have had with other players, a la Justin Tucker, when it comes to legal issues. Doesn't seem like that's going to be the case with Mike Green, but at least we hope so if you're a Ravens fan. But him sliding into the second round is a godsend for a pass rusher, the likes of Mike Green. The pass rushing unit for the Ravens last year were middle of the pack. Even though the Ravens were second in sacks, the pass rush win rate for the Ravens was middle of the pack. 2 years ago with Jadeveon Clowney was really the spark for this defense. It's what made them go. It's what made them so successful. The Ravens are looking for something like that. They haven't had that this year. Even though Calvin Noy and Njoku Owe have been great, the way in which they get consistent pressure has been lackluster, let's be honest. But Mike Green hopefully changes that. The acquisition of Mike Green, Peebles as well, another rookie. You pair him up with Travis Jones and Nnamdi Madubuike. The interior of your defense also has pass rushing capabilities. It's going to be very scary if Mike Green can be the guy we expect him to be. All signs point to him being that guy. But these are the new faces you want to consider. Obviously, Malachi Starks, Mike Green, Jair Alexander. Side note for DeAndre Hopkins, even though he's not going to be the guy we saw in Tennessee or Houston or whatever, he's still going to be that guy, DeAndre Hopkins, I think, this year. We've seen him make some pretty big plays in training camp so far. Expect him to have those plays. Is he going to be a 100-catch receiver? No, there's no reason for that. This offense isn't predicated on being that type of offense. But if you get 4 or 5 good catches from DeAndre Hopkins a game, 50-50 balls, we've seen some of that in training camp. We've seen visions of that. Potentially, Lamar never had that. Maybe a little bit with Mark Andrews, but really having a guy 50-50 ball in the air down the sideline is big. It's huge for this Ravens offense. So don't diminish the quality of play from DeAndre Hopkins, what he can bring to this Ravens offense, and be very careful with other guys in this roster, in their receiver room, which we'll get into in the next segment of the show. When we come back, we'll touch on training camp. There's been lots of news surrounding training camp, including battles that some Ravens fans may not be aware of, and also some key players, some small name guys that may be big name guys by the end of this upcoming season. We'll touch on the next on Ravens Talk. Welcome back to Ravens Talk. As we mentioned earlier, new faces have arrived for the Baltimore Ravens, and we all assume that they're going to be key pieces in what many assume to be a Super Bowl push. But that doesn't mean we can't stop and talk about training camp. That's where we're smack dab in the middle of right now. And there are key battles that I want Ravens fans to pay attention to. I'm sure we've already started paying attention to it because they are very much linked to the play of certain positions in 2024. But let's get into it anyway. First and foremost, let's talk about the one most important position I think that all fans should be concerned about, and that's the kicking battle. We all know Justin Tucker was released by the Baltimore Ravens this offseason. We can touch on the reason for it all we want, but the fact is Justin Tucker is no longer a Raven. Inserting our Tyler Loop and John Royland, who come in. Tyler Loop, obviously the drafted guy. Royland is the undrafted free agent. They're going at it. From what we heard from training camp, it looks like this is going to be decided. There should be a decisive decision being made by the coaching staff. They don't consider it to be much of a battle, but I will be very wary, if you're a Ravens fan, to take this position lightly. One, we all remember the last time there was a battle of this magnitude on the Ravens roster. It was after the 2011 AFC Championship game loss when Billy Cundiff missed a chip shot for all intents and purposes. At the time, I was a beat writer. I was at training camp. I saw Billy Cundiff come in to fight off against then a rookie, Justin Tucker, out of Texas. Undrafted free agent Justin Tucker was. Many assumed he was just there to challenge Billy Cundiff. At the end of the day, in fact, it was very early in which I already knew that Justin Tucker had that job in the bag. You could tell by the way he kicked the football. You could tell by the confidence he displayed. Now, do I see that with John Royland up against Tyler Loop? No, they're two rookies. I don't see that being the case. Not one person hasn't really, from what I understand, between these two guys, no one has really pushed themselves at the front of this competition. You give, the lead to Tyler Loop just based off the fact that, one, he has a stronger leg, and two, he was a drafted player of the two. But that's really we have to go off of. That's all we really have to go off of right now and pertaining to those two players. I think preseason is going to tell the bigger story. I think obviously we assume Tyler Loop has this job. He's the one that has to win this job. But that's not to say he can't lose his job. It wasn't like the Ravens drafted Loop in the second round. It wasn't like he was the first kicker selected in this draft. So Tyler Loop has to fight for this position. He's had, big moments. I think he's kicked 60-plus yard field goals in practice. I don't really worry about the misses in training camp because they're learning new things. They're learning how to kick a certain way. The coaches are working with them, teaching them how to be a professional football player in this National Football League. It's very different kicking in college than it is in the National Football League. More nuance, more technique involved. So I'm not really paying attention to the misses. Let's see how these guys perform under pressure. We'll see them in week 1 in the preseason. That'll tell a bigger story. We'll also see where the coaches' heads are at in regards to who they play most of the time. Does Tyler Loop play the majority of the game in week 1? Does Royland play the majority of the game? Did they split it 50-50? Did they give Loop all the kicks in game 1 and Royland all the games in game 2? All the kicks in game 2, I should say. So it'd be very interesting to see how the coaches come up with this. Obviously, if I had to choose somebody to start, Tyler Loop has the bigger upside, the bigger leg. But you have to make the kick. It doesn't matter how far you kick it. If it doesn't go through the uprights, it doesn't really mean much at all. But in my opinion, the kicker battle is the most important battle that Ravens fans should be paying attention to. Follow ever so closely by that battle between the interior offensive line. Now, we know Voorhees and Faalele started all of last year. Voorhees started at the beginning of the year, lost his spot, and then played a whole game in Week 18 against the Cleveland Browns. Looked good against the Cleveland Browns, but we need to see more from the interior of this offensive line. A lot of pressure was put on Tyler Linderbaum last year. And we saw a lot of teams do very well pushing the interior of this line back. We saw speedy pass rushers like Max Crosby have field days during stunts, just making maneuverability a tough task for both Faalele and Voorhees. You got to get going. We've seen great things out of camp. We've heard great things about how Faalele has worked in the offseason. He wanted to be that guy that the Ravens can count on. So we've heard good things. Let's see it play out in the preseason. I'll be interested to see if the Ravens play Faalele much. I think they will. I think they want to see what he has against opponents. The Ravens have a tall task ahead of themselves. Cam Hayward plays for the Steelers. Mason Graham plays for the Browns. And him being teamed up with Myles Garrett is a combo that I don't think a lot of people are really talking about. But Mason Graham makes Myles Garrett even more dangerous if Mason Graham can be that guy that many consider him to be. So there are interior pass rushers that the Ravens have to deal with. Not as much as last year. No Dexter Lawrence. Aaron Donald's retired. They don't have to deal with Jalen Carter in Philadelphia until they reach the Super Bowl. But the Ravens need to make sure their interior offensive line is good to go because when you get to the postseason, it gets that much more difficult. to block. You got big-time pass rushers in the postseason. A lot of pressure is on Lamar Jackson's shoulders, and a lot of that's because he's getting pressure thrown at him a lot of times. AFC Championship game 2023, divisional round against the Bills. He had pressure put on him early. The Ravens were waxed in the first half against the Buffalo Bills in the divisional round. And that's a big reason why Lamar Jackson had those 2 turnovers. Interior offensive line has to improve mightily if they have any chance of getting the job done this year. So those are my 2 big ones. Interior offensive line, kicker. I think those are 2 big ones. Here's one that we need to watch out for. Excuse me. Here's one that we should watch out for that not a lot of people talked about. We're flirting with it. And it might not be week 1 of the National Football League. But pay attention to Tez Walker. Pay attention to Tez Walker. It is not a secret. It is not training camp hype either. He is performing very well. They are taking notice. I know DeAndre Hopkins has that 3rd wide receiver spot in the bag. I'm not saying Tez Walker is going to take that job from him. All I'm saying is the amount of snaps that we're going to see DeAndre Hopkins on the field may be in jeopardy due to the resurgence of Tez Walker, well, due to the emergence of Tez Walker. Tez Walker's first catch was a touchdown against the New York Giants. Not really much after that. We know the problems that Tez Walker had his first year in the league. Not much of a route runner, not much to speak of. So you know that that's where his focus was in this offseason, and you've seen the improvement so far in camp. You've heard it from coaches. You heard it from players. You've seen it in action. Being a better route runner gives you the opportunity to display your catch radius, like we see from Tez Walker, to display your speed in certain situations. So it's not just straight line speed anymore. It's being an overall great receiver, and that's what Tez Walker seems to be building towards. This is not training camp hype. I know we've had these receivers in the past be those guys. Dayton Wade comes to mind, even though I think Dayton Wade has a chance to do something special as well. I think Tez Walker's emergence is a little different, and it's something that we need to keep an eye on as the season progresses. I don't know about week 1. I won't say all that, but do not be surprised if we see more Tez Walker this year for the Ravens than many had initially anticipated. When we come back, we'll talk about the Ravens' overall goal. We know what it is. It's the Super Bowl. They've come short twice now in big-time moments where we thought the Ravens had a shot to move forward. Do they have what it takes? Is this season a bust if the Ravens don't make the Super Bowl? And if they don't, who is to blame? We'll touch on it here next on Ravens Talk. We are back here with Ravens Talk. Now, we talked about training camp. We've talked about new faces. Now let's talk about what everyone's concerned with. And that's the ultimate goal. If you're a Ravens fan, Ravens coach, Ravens player, winning the championship, winning the Super Bowl, getting the job done. Lamar Jackson entered the league in 2018, has been on a tear since, has fallen short of the ultimate goal, which is winning the championship. He has 2 MVPs. He has all-pro nods. All of that under his belt. Probably should be 3-time MVP if we're really being serious. Anybody with a brain knows that Lamar should have won it in 2024. But we move forward with the notion that the Ravens have a shot to win the Super Bowl this year. Now, is it indeed Super Bowl or bust? You know, John Harbaugh was asked about that during the Ravens podcast, an official Ravens podcast of their own. And he said that pretty much, not word for word, but he pretty much said, if you really think that this is a Super Bowl or bust season, then you haven't really accomplished anything, which I find to be hilarious and a tad disrespectful, if I'm being quite honest. I mean, let's be serious. This roster is the best in all of football. Yes or no? Yes. This roster has time and time again fallen short in previous seasons of winning the championship. Yes or no? Yes. Who does that fallen on time and time again for no reason whatsoever, in my opinion? Well, I won't say no reason. I think that some of this criticism in Lamar Jackson's way is fair. But Lamar Jackson has taken the blunt of the criticism in regards to winning the championship and falling short of it. But in my opinion, and we talked about this on other platforms, we'll talk about that in a little bit actually. In my opinion, the person who was going to get the brunt of the blame and who should get the brunt of the blame if the Ravens were to fall short of the Super Bowl is John Harbaugh. 1,000%. And you guys know, if you guys are fans of the show, you know that I'm a John Harbaugh guy. I have time and time again come on the show and pretty much, you know, I fought for this guy. I've been the guy who's had his back in regards to decisions he's made, you know, criticisms, backlash from fans. It's do or die now. It's put up or shut up. You're the Ravens head coach. You're the guy that get this team. Eric Costa did his job. He got the roster together. You have to coach this team up and win a championship. You can't get out-coached against the Cleveland Browns. You can't get out-coached against the Las Vegas Raiders. You can't get out-coached in big-time moments in the postseason and just deflect the blame. He's not deflecting the blame, I don't believe, to Lamar Jackson, but the blame has shot in Lamar Jackson's direction, and John Harbaugh has been shielded by some choking from Lamar Jackson. I will admit that. It has been all on John, but he has been shielded from criticism from everybody but obviously the John Harbaugh haters. I know there's Harbaugh haters out there who've been screaming this since day one, but this is it. I won't say John Harbaugh see this hot. What I will say is he will have some explaining to do if the Ravens were to fall short yet again. You can't run it 6 times in the playoff game when you have Derrick Henry. Can't do it. He didn't do it in the divisional round. I'm not saying that. But in previous games, he has fallen short in coaching aspects, and he's just deflected it. The front office has his back. Guys like me have his back. That cannot be the case this year. Lamar Jackson is going to receive criticism if they fall short of the Super Bowl this year. Of course, the national media is going to use it as a tool to argue that Lamar Jackson isn't as superb as many, including myself, believe he is. But John Harbaugh will not escape the backlash from fans and media like myself when he falls short, if he were to do so. Now, if the Ravens win the championship, John Harbaugh deserves the praise, obviously. Lamar Jackson will get that praise. The other guys on the field, let's not forget the other 53 men on this roster will get the praise that they deserve. But if the Ravens were to fall short of a championship this year, the first person that I'm pointing fingers at is the head coach. Steve Bisciotti needs to have that same approach. Eric DeCosta, I don't know what kind of power he has in choosing a head coach or keeping a head coach. They'll need to keep that in mind. We've seen it time and time again. Nick Sirianni wasn't the head coach when the Eagles won the championship the first time 7 years ago. Andy Reid was the head coach for the Philadelphia Eagles at one point, and he was released. How long will we have John Harbaugh hanging on the coattails of his 2012 success? I think we're nearing the end, folks. I think we've reached the point. I mean, this roster is superb. This may go down, and you got to play the game. But on paper, I'm not sure there's a better Ravens roster in the history of the Ravens franchise than we're seeing right now, with an MVP, 2-time MVP, leading the charge, and with a Derrick Henry who doesn't have any signs of slowing down. Acquisition of Jair Alexander, as you mentioned, the drafting that they did has been superb. We're seeing guys like TJ Tampa. We're seeing guys like Nate Wiggins take a step up. There are too many pluses on this team to sit here and say that the head coach doesn't take some of the blame if they fall short. You want to blame Lamar Jackson? Sure. Who's coaching Lamar Jackson? Who's coaching him? John Harbaugh. Who's making the decisions on the football field prior to the snap? Who's making the play call? The guy is John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh hired the guy who's making the play calls. So it starts at the top, baby. It starts at the top. I want John Harbaugh to succeed. I want the Ravens to succeed. I want Lamar Jackson to succeed. Let me tell you something. There's a huge cap hit coming for Lamar Jackson. They need to renegotiate his contract. He's not going anywhere. So if you miss the playoffs, not miss the playoffs, if you miss a chance to win a championship 3 times in a row, someone has to bite the bullet. I tell you what, it ain't that guy. Lamar Jackson's not going anywhere. So it's going to be the head coach, I believe. Now, this is all sombering. It feels like I'm being a negative Nancy. It's not. I'm just putting truth to what is out there. This is the Super Bowl or bust moment. Maybe I haven't accomplished anything, John. Fine. Maybe you want to say that. Quite all right with me. But if you don't accomplish the task of winning the championship, the next great thing you accomplish will not be in the city of Baltimore. I think John Harbaugh gets sent away, sent packing if the Ravens don't get the job done. It's a mighty task. More power, more responsibility. The Ravens have all the power right now. In the power rankings, they're ranked 1 or 2, wherever you slice it. Clearly the best team in the AFC. If they don't reach the championship game, if they don't reach the Super Bowl, if they're not playing in San Francisco, February 2026, how do you retain John Harbaugh? How do you do it? How do you do it? John Harbaugh's the leader. He's the guy. You can't just sit here and say, oh, Lamar Jackson choked again. Oh, well. No. Who's coaching him? Who's helping him get better? Who's the guy that's going to help him alleviate some of that pressure? Who's the main guy in charge? It's John Harbaugh. I think he can do it. I think the Ravens are going to win a championship this year. I think they have all the capabilities, including the top-notch head coach, to get the job done. But if they don't get the job done, the first person I'm blaming is John Harbaugh. So I believe it is Super Bowl or bust. If somebody told John Harbaugh otherwise, you best talk to him again, because I believe his job is definitely on the line. When we come back, we'll close the show, touch on what's coming up next for Ravens Talk, for myself, and for you viewers and listeners who are listening on wherever they get their podcast next on Ravens Talk. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Ravens Talk. We talked about training camp. We talked about new faces. We talked about the Super Bowl or bust, the weight of the world on the shoulders of Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh. Great show as always. I want to, again, thank you guys so much for joining us for a new season of Ravens Talk. I've heard from a lot of fans, actually, about what I'm doing. I've seen you around different places. You're posting different things. I want to get an idea of what exactly going on with you, Sam Njoku, in regards to the Ravens. Are you with this organization now? I see you everywhere. I understand that. Yes. Ravens Talk has been, it's been off for a while. I've done a lot of things, negotiating, get ready for the season, give you the best possible way to hear my voice, see my face, get the Ravens news out there and entertain you guys as we get ready for what I assume to be an awesome season. So let's just, before we close the show, sit down and talk about what exactly is going to go down this season here for Ravens Talk, myself, as we push forward to the 2025 regular season. Up first, Ravens Talk every week from here on out until the Super Bowl. You'll hear my voice. You'll see my face if you're watching on YouTube as we get ready for the Ravens push to the Super Bowl. Super Bowl or bust, baby. That's what I'm saying. Up next, AFC North Roundtable. Roundtable Sports brings you divisional discussions. AFC North is no different. Join myself, join Zim, join Chef Zay, join the Steelers as we talk about what's going down with the division. Lots and lots of discussion regarding Aaron Rodgers, Joe Burrow, what the Browns are going to do with Shedeur Sanders, ourselves as we get ready for a potential Super Bowl berth. Lots of good things to talk about. So if you're a fan of some trash talk, some friendly trash talk between the division folks, make sure you tune into Roundtable Sports, AFC North Roundtable, every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, live for you guys to view. Also, myself, Vaughn King, Clay Patton, we have a new show called the Still Got It Podcast. We talk about all things National Football League, pop culture, politics. Nothing's off limits. So if you want to hear my unfiltered, unsanctioned opinions about all things NFL and politics, all that good stuff, make sure you tune in. Me and my boys Still Got a Podcast. We'll be showing up every week as well. Make sure links will be down in the description on YouTube where you can follow us on social media and watch us every week. And finally, to the Locked On fans, you guys know Locked On Ravens with Kevin Outstriker. Now myself, Kevin, and former Ravens wide receiver legend Kadri Ismail, we go in every single week, twice a week. And once the season starts, post-game show as well. We talk Ravens all the time. Right now, it's Mondays and Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That time will change once the season starts. We'll have more information when that happens. But right now, Mondays and Thursdays, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Locked On Ravens, Raven Squad show every single week. So there you have it. You got the Ravens Talk show. You got AFC North Roundtable. You got the Still Got It podcast. And you got the Locked On Ravens show, the Raven Squad show, every single week for your amusement. So lots of time being pulled away from me in different directions, making sure this show remains a huge priority for you guys, getting you your Ravens news. So I appreciate you guys so much for joining us. That's going to do it for us here at Ravens Talk. Again, appreciate you guys again. A new season ahead. Lots and lots of great moments ahead. Lots of pressure to be this good. So we'll see what the Ravens do. I'm thinking Super Bowl. We sure will find out. And I will see you next week.
Follow us on Instagram, on YouTube for the broadcast. Said this the Raven Talk, this the Raven Talk, this the Raven Talk podcast. Not old news, this is new news to the whole world. What he bought.